Hello, you beautiful infinite beings brought onto your path of exploring the infinite, your infinite potential, your infinite truth, and ultimately your infinite self. Thank you for tuning in today's video, in which I'm going to be speaking about empaths and the power of empathy in general. So, as always, I'll be including a mix of spiritual energy and psychological rationalization and explanation throughout the video. So what's an empath? Who is an empath? Are you an empath? And if you are, what should you do with this kind of power? What do you do with this trait, and how to use it to benefit everyone and yourself included? With an empath is someone who's very sensitive to their surroundings energy, more specific to people around, to the energy of people around them, especially if they're focused on the people or are in direct contact or relation with these individuals. And so more often than not, and this is the key thing about being an empath, is that you are affected by this kind of energy. As in, you might feel overwhelmed, you might attribute it to yourself, you might identify with it, and then this could be a problem. This could prove to be crippling at some point. And this energy, at both ends, like the way you receive it and the way you process it, could be in the form of emotions, feelings, thoughts, and the like. So you could suddenly walk into a room people where there were two people who have just had a conflicting argument, a very tense one, and then they left off with both having negative emotions within them, and the environment is tense in there, and you'll suddenly feel taken back the moment you walk into this room. You're gonna feel something is off, something is not right. And if they're harboring like anger or hatred or resentfulness, you might even find yourself being very resentful and relating it to something you've had along your day, or something, it could trigger some feelings you have inside you, that something that you were resentful about at some point in the past, especially if you're not aware of being that you are an empath, of what empathy is, or what's going on, or why it's happening. So it's very important, if you are an empath, if you are someone who's very sensitive to these emotions and energies around them, that you know what it's all about and how to deal with it and how to use it for the benefit of everyone. The way I see it is, there are two types of empaths, although I do essentially ultimately believe that they are the same, because essentially being an empath is one of the paths that your higher self, your higher infinite being, has chosen to go through in this life. That's why it's very important to remember, if you are being affected, if you are having these feelings, and that are not your own, and you start feeling negative and overwhelmed out of the blue, you need to remember that it's meant for the better. It's meant for you to be used by you in order to reach your full potential as an ego form, and eventually in alignment with your real, with your true infinite self. So that's always important to have on your mind. And by knowing that, that's why I think they are the same, because regardless of how it was acquired or how you gained this power, it won't make any difference, because it's essentially what's meant for you to have in order to awaken, in order to achieve your full potential as in this 3D reality. However, for the sake of clarification, I'd like to mention these two types separately. And so the majority of empaths are usually of the type that I'm gonna be speaking about now, which is I'm gonna be touching on the psychological factors that have awakened and triggered such power within you. Because if you understand, if it's clear to you how it's gained and what's happened and what were the reasons, now you're gonna understand the concept of empathy more, and you're gonna be able to use it, to use your understanding in healing others who've been going through the same thing, on helping them and making them realize and understand that it doesn't necessarily have to be this crippling factor about themselves, this thing that keeps them from going out, because the mere fact of going out and mixing with others is could be overwhelming to an empath, because they're catching on to many energies that are not their own and many emotions that are not their own, which could be draining them and crippling them from doing other things throughout the course of their day due to the overwhelming of such emotions. Now, an empath, usually, to sum it up, to simplify it up rather, would have had is someone who've had a rather uncertain childhood. Now, this uncertainty could have been at home, growing up with your family, or at school, or out in the society in general with your friends, or the society on whole could be uncertain, and could have if it had an active direct effect on their life, it could have also been the reason. But in general, this uncertainty would be something like if you had parents who argued all the time, who fought all the time, and then, you know, who weren't able to give love unconditionally, in which you've had to translate every emotion they had to, you had to understand what they're going through to know how you should react or know how you should approach them. If it's always been like this around you, if in school you've been around, you felt like an outcast or you were an outsider and always had to interpret what everyone is thinking in order for you to approach the right way, in order for you to mix in well, in order for you to, adapt to your surrounding. This is what often happens. Your ego, so desperately out of survival, starts to delve into our innate traits and innate powers, which is one is obviously empathy, into feeling everyone around us and knowing what everyone feels and think. It's something that we've blocked a very long time ago, somewhere along our ancestral path, along our evolutionary path, because it was too overwhelming for the ego, because everyone did not come out pure, and everything was, it it would have caused lots of conflicts and controversy. So it's something that we've adapted to blocking along the path. And so by delving in so deep, it is the ego awakens this power to make you aware of others' energies and others' feelings towards you and others' emotions, in order for it to survive, in order for you to know how to react. Because as a child, as an child, you're not capable of discerning. You don't have enough mental fortitude to know that what's going on apart from you, just next to you or around you, doesn't have to define you. You don't have to identify with it. You don't have to act upon it, because they are doing their thing and you're doing your thing, because they are their own person. You just, as a child, you just react to however you desperately react, in order to fit in order to mix in order to survive and to socialize. And so, whether it was at the household, whether it was in outside in the society, it led the ego to awaken this power and desperation. And so, as an empath, you might find yourself even at an older age unable to live around certain conditions, around stability. You're not able to stabilize and to take on the normal path, let's say, in life. And that what could be a reason that triggers you to awaken, to spiritually awaken, to realize that there is a bigger meaning in life, that there is a bigger potential, that there is a bigger purpose, that your potential is not just to grow up, stabilize, and recreate, and that's it. That there's much more, and that's why it's essentially a power for you to use in order to benefit yourself and everyone around you. Because now, with this ability, with this power of empathy, it also comes with a massive healing energy, and even psychologically, because now you're aware of how everyone is and what they're feeling, and how even the feelings that might be subconscious to them, you might catch on to these feelings before they do and realize that something is wrong, and you might help them. You help two people, you're able to help partners and aid them in in reaching a an agreement, a smooth agreement among their conflict. So this healing energy that comes with it could only be unlocked by you if you choose so. Because just like with anything, it could be, this kind of ability could be used in a negative way if you end up deciding to, and you could pass it, you can end up even passing it along your trail the same way it was passed to you, the same way it was rather inflicted upon you through uncertainty and desperation to please and to understand. And that could even oftentimes lead to people becoming people pleasers, and using this ability as a manipulative ploy and tricks, and working tricks on others in order to gain pleasure, in order for them to gain what they want and pleasure for themselves. And they could use it as a two ways, and to please others, because now they understand what those around them need. They understand what's going on with these people, so they could use it as a manipulative ploy if they decide to. And unfortunately, many people, or most people, would use this as such and then end up passing it to their next generation, because it has not been healed, and it just keep passing, being passed on until it reaches someone, until it reaches you, and you take matters into your hand, and you say that's enough, and you realize that it's something so great, something very healing, that if applied and if used in the proper manner, it could benefit a huge amount of people. And so always remember that it's a great, that it's a magical skill that you've awakened and adopted, and it's meant for you to apply in order to improve everyone's lives, your own included. Because now, by going through it, by knowing that oftentimes you're gonna catch on to feelings and emotions that are not your own, you learn to give up, you learn to let go, you learn to become fluid, you learn that an obstacle could be a path to a greater purpose, to a greater meaning. And so you start knowing, you start understanding that you don't have to hold on to everything. You need to let go in order to live, because it's gonna be ridiculous if you live on your whole life adopting others' emotions and feelings without releasing them into the universe. And with that, I want you to be reassured that that's why being an empath is not necessarily a crippling thing, and it's a great thing if you choose it to be, if you decide to use it for the greater good. It's gonna be a magical thing, knowing all of these things, understanding people, being of such help to others, while knowing deep down, while really understanding to your core that you don't have to hold on to any of this, just let it all go. And with this, you get a step closer to your infinite potential, my fellow beautiful friends. And I hope you've gained some value from today's video and it was of any help to you on your path. And with that, I wish you a great day, and once again, thank you for tuning in. If you've stayed this long, please don't forget to subscribe and like this video. Thank you, and see you